Hey everyone, my name is Deborah and this is my channel Kensington Cross Stitch, and this is Flosstube #1. So I am so excited to be joining this community of stitchers and Flosstubers and people who love a craft as much as I do. So I have been thinking about this for a while and I am so excited to be taking this step into the Flosstube world. So I hope that you'll join me along the way. So just a little bit about myself. I live in Connecticut. I have been a stitcher for many years. I'll go into that a little more in just a few minutes. I have two cats who probably will make an appearance either today or in future videos. They were rescue cats that I've had for a couple of years. So anytime I'm here in my craft room sitting on at this table, essentially it's what are you doing and can I sit on it? So I expect they'll be around at some point. But in my day-to-day life, I work full-time. Let's try this one again. I am an administrator of a government library, and so I basically sit in meetings and talk to people all day, which isn't really what people think of when they think of libraries, but it's something that I enjoy, and it's really a great way to give back to the library community. And before that, I was an academic law librarian, so I worked in law schools across the country. I helped students, faculty, members of the bar, anybody who was coming in to do research in the library. I was there at the reference desk teaching. I was a law professor teaching legal research, so I did that for many years before I got to my current position at the government library. In terms of crafting, this is the way that I spend a lot of my free time, downtime from work. So I've been a crafter and a multi-crafter pretty much for my entire life. I'll talk a little bit about my journey in cross stitch, but I've been sewing, I do a little bit of quilting, I also do some apparel apparel sewing, not as much as I probably could if you look at the stash of patterns that I own, but it's something that I'm hoping to get back to at some point. I also learned how to crochet about 10 years ago, definitely took a left turn doing that for a long time. I have a very large yarn stash and a few other things, so picking up on embroidery and a few other projects, but really I really like doing a wide variety of crafts, but kind of tend to come back to those couple of crafts over and over again, and cross stitch is absolutely one of them. So like I said, I'm just really excited to be not only watching Flosstube anymore, but actually starting to take a first step into that part of the community myself. So that is just a little bit about me. I am going to kind of take a look at my notes as we go along just to make sure I'm not kind of forgetting what I've gotten. So I know, like a lot of people do in their very first video, they talk about their stitching journey, what it is that brought them to being a stitcher today, whether that's I started just a couple of weeks ago and I'm excited, or it's somebody in my life taught me when I was a kid and I've been doing it for several decades. We all have kind of stories like that. And so for me, it was absolutely a family member. My grandmother came into town one year to visit. She and my grandfather literally lived on the other side of the country, so we only got to see them once every year or so, and so it was always special when they got to come and visit. And so one of the visits that they came, I think I was about 12. Even then I was a crafter. So one of the things that they did that was special is they said, let's go to the local craft store. It was the big box, AC Moore kind of thing. And they said, just pick out something that you're excited about and we'll get it for you. So I wandered around, and for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure why, I picked up cross stitch for the first time. I actually still have my very first cross stitch. Let's see here. There we go. And so as you can see, it's a little unicorn, Karen have a carousel unicorn. It is perfectly imperfect is what I would say it is. Let me see if I can do this and if it will focus a little bit more for you all. Absolutely, I would say perfectly imperfect. You can definitely spot the mistakes in that one, but it was just so much fun. The moment I started it, I just worked on it until it was done, and then I just went back and I got more of those little kits. Many of you will remember those little kits. I have a couple more like this. I was also a reader, of course, and so I really loved doing these small pieces. Of course, they often came with these little wooden cutouts and things that you were supposed to dye or stain. Did I do that? No. But I worked on these for many, many years. And so when I was growing up, really, we didn't know that there was anything else, or at the time there really wasn't anything else in cross stitch aside from kits. And so I would often go to Joann or Michael's or AC Moore and pick up kits. I was never somebody who really, I always liked stitching for the sake of stitching. I was never somebody that wanted to really keep the things that I stitch. So I have those couple of things, but I don't have anything else from that era, because I would stitch them and I would give them away. I would stitch them for a particular person. I would see a pattern and think, I know somebody that I think that would like this piece. And so for many years, that was the type of stitching that I did. I don't have them with me, of course, because I gave them away, but I kept many of the patterns. So this is an old Mary Engelbright. Let me see here. And so this one had a number of little purses and things like that. And so I gave that one away to an aunt. I had a friend who worked with horses every summer. And so let's see, we're learning how to do this one. There we go. This was a horse and cat pattern that I stitched for her and sent it along to her. And I also at some point, I assumed if it was a kit, it was probably I assumed like, oh, it's easy, surely, because it's a kit, right? And unfortunately, as we all know, that's not the case. And so this was Dimensions Gold Petite, which is quite intense when you actually look at the stitching. It was a beautiful piece, something that I gave to somebody in my life who really loved boats. So that was just the type of stitching I did for many years. Oh, I meant to show you. I actually have some of the pieces that were my grandmother's. My grandmother was also a multi-crafter. She did cross stitch, she did embroidery, she did needlepoint, she made her own clothes, of course. And so I was actually able to receive many of those after she passed away. And so they're things that I treasure. And so I wanted to show you a couple of those. So this is as you can see, kind of a stamped piece that she did. And so this was often kind of a way that you did cross stitch many years ago. And so I think this is just a beautiful piece. It obviously matches my craft room and normally hangs right above me here. And then she also, not always, but she actually designed this piece. This is a winter piece that she designed. And this is her family homestead in North Dakota. And so she actually fully designed this piece and stitched it. As you can see, it was never properly ironed. It's gotten very dirty. The glass broke at some point during one of my moves. And so currently, because it's a winter scene, I have it hanging downstairs near my Christmas tree. But once winter is over, I'm going to actually properly wash it and take it and get it professionally framed, because I think that'll just be something that's really special. I've had to move quite a lot in my life, and so it never quite was the right time to do that, but I think that this is the right time to do it at this point. So that was kind of the legacy that brought me into cross stitch. And like I said, I did those kits for a long time. And then during my very first job, I was living out in California, and I had a coworker who discovered that I like cross stitch, and she's like, "You like cross stitch? I like cross stitch." And so we discovered that there were actually several of us there that cross stitched, and we worked in one of those places that you had to take an hour for lunch. It didn't matter. You had to take an hour for lunch. And so we would eat fairly quickly. We'd sit and talk, and we would actually bring our cross stitch and work on pieces together, which was just such a really wonderful way to talk about our hobby. And it was really the only time I'd actually been able to spend time with fellow stitchers and really talk about projects and what we were working on. And she was the person who introduced me to the much wider world of cross stitch. She actually said, "Okay, well, the kits are great, but let me show you what I'm working on." She worked on hand-dyed linen. She used silks. She would have every piece professionally framed. They were just absolutely stunning pieces that she would work on. And so one lunch break, there was actually a cross stitch store not too far from us at work. And we went over there, and it was just, we walked in the door, and it was just like, my mind was blown. I had never been in a place that had overdyed cottons, that had silks, that had hand-dyed linens, that had all of these beautiful pieces, and the charts, the patterns from designers that I had never heard of, never seen in one of these other stores. And so that was really that first opportunity for me to see how the hobby had changed and what was available to me that I had never been aware of before. So that really opened up a lot of things for me. And actually, when I left that job and I moved away, she gifted me one of her pieces This is, I believe this is a shepherd's bush. I can look it up if somebody is interested in it, but as you can see, it's got a sheep, and this is all done on hand-dyed linen with silks and some other things like that. So it's just a really beautiful piece. And even when I didn't have a lot of room or space to hang things up in my house, this has been something that is just in a place of prominence in my house ever since. It's just a really wonderful gift to have that from a fellow stitcher who put in her own time and energy. And so it was something that I've always treasured and continue to treasure. So yeah, that is kind of my stitching story. When I was stitching for, this was probably 10, 15 years ago at this point, money was very tight. And so I couldn't do the silks. I couldn't do the overdyed linens or the specialty things like some other people could. And so I really focused on buying patterns. I focused on things that you wouldn't be able to buy if you went to the local Joann, or what you might be able to find there. And so I was really looking at what can I do? And so I would work with DMC. I would work with prepackaged linen or prepackaged even weave. I would learn to dye some of those things. But really, I figured I wanted to focus on the images, the thing that I was spending my money on. And so that was something that I did for the next 10 years or so, kind of on and off, even as I was working on other crafts and learning to crochet and do all of those things. I always had a cross-stitch project in the background. And then eventually, kind of at the start of the pandemic, around the time, a lot of people got interested in those types of things again. I picked up some cross-stitch, and it really just kind of really brought it home for me, and I have been working on it pretty steadily since then. So that's what brings us to the Flosstube today. And I've learned about Instagram. I've learned about stitching retreats. I've learned about all of these wonderful things that are out there and available to help us in this community. So that's kind of what brought me here. And so I am hoping that this will be a place for me to actually get to know people. I have a family member who lives pretty far from me who is a stitcher, one or two like kind of local stitchers that I've gotten to know very recently, but really nobody kind of in my day-to-day life that I get to talk about cross stitch with. Usually the people that I am with, they kind of are very indulgent in listening to me, but it's not their hobby. It's my hobby that they're just listening to. So I'm hoping that this will bring me into that community and give me people that I can talk with and to about cross stitch. And also I love kind of recording my personal projects. I keep notebooks with all of the books that I'm reading. I'm keeping notebooks with all kinds of things that I'm doing. And so this is also going to be kind of a visual record of my stitching as I continue on. So that's really what I'm hoping to be getting out of this Flosstube experience. So thank you for coming and hope that you will be interested in rejoining me as we continue on that journey. So with that, I'm going to kind of move away from the hello, this is who I am, this is how I got here, to the more standard Flosstube topics. So we'll talk about FFOs, which are finished objects. We'll talk about haul, and we'll talk about plans. And then I'm going to end the video today, since it's at the end of 2022. We're all thinking about ending the old year, starting the new year. I'm going to show you some of my favorite FOs and FFOs from 2022. And hopefully that will give you a flavor for the type of stitching that I enjoy, the designers that I like, and if this is something that you would be interested in coming back for on a regular basis. So I'm going to start with an FFO. This is something that I actually started and finished within the last maybe 10 days or so. This is a pattern from UB Design, which is a German designer, and it's this candle. Let me see here. I am still clearly learning how to get these things to focus. There we go. Here's a candle, and the little letters spell Weihnacht, which is Christmas in German. So this is just a very tiny piece. I didn't even know how tiny it was when I purchased it. But as you can see by the finished object, this is very tiny. Let's see here. So as you can see, it's a little candle. It spells Weihnacht. I used Vicky Clayton silks for this, and so they're very similar to the called for colors, which I do believe includes a DMC listing, even though it's a continental European pattern. But I just picked a couple of Vicky Clayton silks that look like they were very similar. And as you can see, I just finished it in a very simple frame, put some ribbon on the back, and I pretty much instantly walked downstairs and put it on my Christmas tree, which is just so much fun. So that is my most recent FFO, or fully finished object, that I'm really happy about. I am definitely still in the Christmas stitching phase with that, but we'll see. I'm hoping that it sticks around for a little while longer. I have a couple of pieces that I am hoping to finish before I start working on other pieces, but I think about January 3rd last year, I suddenly was just like, no more Christmas. I'm going to work on something else. So we'll see what happens. So that is my one FFO. I also had several new starts, and so they're also whips that I wanted to show you. Both of these are projects that I started on December 24. I was over with some family. It was funny. I was 15 minutes from my house. I was gone for less than 24 hours, and I took 3 projects with me because, of course, we're stitchers, and that's what we do. And you never know the moment you leave your house, the mood that you had when you left is going to be different, and you're going to want to stitch something else entirely. So you always have to be prepared. That's, I think, the experience many of us have. So that is pretty much what I did. And I did work on 2 of the 3 projects that I actually took with me. So this one is from the Broderie and Color Box, which is from Tom and Lily, which is a French company. And I actually have just started receiving these boxes. I'll show you a little more in a bit about that, but it is just this absolutely beautiful ribbon embroidery and cross stitch piece. And so it's got Merry Christmas. It's also charted for Joyeux Noel. And then it does ribbon embroidery in addition to the cross stitch. So I started that one and it comes with the box. And so it comes with all of the threads that you might need for your project. It comes with the linen. It comes with everything. And so as you can see, this is kind of where I am on this one so far. Just got a little bit of a start on that. I am not Team Iron, I will admit. So I've gotten the outline of the wreath. It does have a little bit of metallic thread. And so this is kind of the top. And so I'll be stitching around. And once I finish the cross stitch, I think then you do the ribbon embroidery. So it was just an opportunity to try something new, and I just loved the pattern. So that is one of the pieces that I started over Christmas. And then I also attended, like many of you, the Jingle Ball a few weeks ago. And somehow I managed to actually get into Kathy Haberman's hands-on designs class. I happened to be looking at my email the moment that the announcement went out. And so I was able to sign up for that class. And so I really had a good time in that. Again, it comes fully kitted, and so you get all of the DMC that you need. It comes with fabric. It comes with all of the finishing pieces that you need. And so this is the pattern that we were working on. We didn't have any pre-stitching in this one. It was entirely a finishing class. And so you would basically come, Kathy taught you how to do all of the finishing for this piece, and then you could stitch it at your own pace. So just a really beautiful kind of classic Christmas look. And so that was one that I knew that I wanted to get started on. And let me see, this is where I am. So I've gotten kind of this top ribbon, and then I've started the word Merry. And so those are my 2 Christmas whips at the moment. I really am, like I said, hoping that this Christmas stitching mood sticks around long enough to at least get those 2 pieces finished for next year, so I have them ready. But we'll see. I know that we always we make plans, but what happens after those plans are made is anybody's guess. So we'll see what happens. So those were the 2 that I started on New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, worked on them a little bit on Christmas as well in between the festivities. And then I have one other piece that I am working on, and this is actually a fairly large piece. I am mostly a small stitcher, in part because I think that I just really enjoy the instant gratification or the relatively instant gratification of working on a piece and having it done and being able to finish it. I am not somebody who does the big samplers, who does the big pieces, and really sees that accomplishment. I love seeing other people work on them, but for me, I think I'm probably just a little bit too impatient or a little bit too squirrel about all of the other patterns that are available. So this is definitely one of the biggest pieces that I have worked on. This is Christmas Market, or Weihnachtsmarkt, which is by Twin Peak Primitives, and I love this. I was able to visit Germany a couple of times about a decade ago, and one of the times that I was visiting there was during the height of the Christmas season. And if you are familiar with Germany at Christmas time and many of the European countries, Christmas markets are absolutely part of the festivities and what is happening there. And you go, it's open night after night for 4 or 6 weeks, and you go and there are stalls where you can go buy presents, and you can ride carousels, and there's Christmas lights, and there's food and all kinds of things. And so you go, and it's just this wonderful experience that you have with your community. And there are actually tours that people go on. I would love to do that once, like a Rhine River cruise with German Christmas markets. I would love that. I would just have so much fun, and I would buy so many souvenirs. So I wanted to commemorate that experience that I had, and the kind of that joy that idea brings to me. And so I bought this pattern. But I found the pattern just a little bit too crowded for me. Like, it felt like everything was very confined in the pattern. And so what I did, I'm not going to show you, obviously, the chart, but I bought a digital copy of the chart as well, and I recharted it. I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of what I've done. I really took it and made it so it will be a long runner. And so at the bottom, you kind of enter the Christmas market, you can walk along the stalls, and at the top is this kind of the double stall with the Christmas presents that you can buy there. So that is what I am planning to do. Kind of, I've recharted it, left a few things out, but making it to look more like that wall runner look rather than kind of a more rectangular piece in that direction. So this is definitely something that I will be working on, I'm hoping, throughout the year. My plan is, if I just do one stall or one element per month, I'm hoping that means by next Christmas I'll have it done. So I have now at this point finished the very first one, which is kind of the top of the market. And so you can see here, there's tiny little Christmas presents, and there's some people walking around. And then all of the other stalls will kind of go down here till you have the entrance piece. So I'm hoping, like I said, that I can do one of these stalls a month and have it done by next Christmas. This is kind of a double stall, so it was a lot of stitching for me this month, but that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. It is not really traditional Christmas colors. It's just a very bright set of DMC. So I'm hoping that also means that I don't sit there in April or in August thinking, oh, Christmas. I'm hoping that this will be something I can work on and really appreciate by the time I get to Christmas next year. So those are my 3 whips that I have been working on. I do, of course, like many people, have many other whips. But those were the couple that I've been actively working on in the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Take a look at my notes, have some coffee, and then I will continue on. Okay. So next I wanted to talk about plans. Obviously, like I said, I have those 3 pieces that I'm hoping to continue on with and make some good progress. Hopefully those 2 small pieces, like I said, I'll get done in the next couple of weeks and have those ready for next year. The Christmas market I'm going to be working on throughout the year. I am very tempted to do 12 by 12, which I know is tomorrow. This is Pam from Pam and Steph Just Keep Stitching, and Kia B, who are working on this kind of annual thing on Christmas or New Year's Eve. And they have team whips and team starts and all kinds of fun things. I really wasn't sure until very recently what my plans for tomorrow would be, so I haven't specifically decided that I'm going to work on this, but it's looking likely. So in the next video, you may find out that I spent 12 hours working on cross stitch on New Year's Eve, just like hopefully many of you, but we'll see. The other thing that I would like to get started on is I think that I would like to do a temperature chart for this year. I know that these have been popular for a number of years. I actually did a crochet temperature blanket several years ago, and I kind of winged it and didn't really work out because the stitch that I chose wound up being very big. And so I think I stitched through, it was either May or July. I was right around the midpoint of the year, and I already had a king size blanket, and I was like, this is done. I can't do this anymore. It was so heavy and huge. So I kind of finished that. I think I actually donated it in the end, but I just figured somebody could really enjoy that because it was heavy and it was nice, but it kind of wound up running out of steam because I was like, this is far too big for what I need. And I've been thinking about kind of doing some of the cross stitch ones. I know I have seen some really beautiful charts for temperature cells. I know there's the drinks and there's the birds and the butterflies and all of these different things that designers have come up with that are of interest to various different stitchers beyond just our stitching hobby, but what else it is that we enjoy in life and what it is it that you can kind of mark the days with where you live, all of those kinds of things. So I've been thinking about doing one. I thought about doing one last year, and I found a chart that I absolutely loved. Because of course it's always about our aesthetic and our interests too. And this is one that I found, which is the Goth Temperature Stitch Along. And as you can see, of course, it's books, it's libraries, really beautiful, intricate. But one of the things that I kept thinking about was, you know, if you're going to mark a year, what is special about that year that you're trying to mark? For me, that's the kind of thing that I think about, not necessarily something everybody does, but I felt like if I'm going to do this over the course of a year, what's special about that particular year that I am marking? And so last year, I didn't think, last year was kind of just a year. I didn't really have anything that I felt like marking and wound up not working on it. But I thought this year with hopefully with 2023 being my first year on Flosstube, we'll see. But that might be a fun way to mark something, and so really have something to work on throughout the year, show you progress on, but to be able to look back on and say, this is when I started Flosstube. This is what I was marking when I was working on this project, what I was thinking about. But you may have noticed, this is an extremely intricate pattern. I believe that it actually says it's about 4 skeins of black just to kind of do all of the outlines. And I thought that's an awful lot of stitching. I'm not an everyday stitcher. I tend to be a binge stitcher, usually on weekends while I'm watching movies, things like that. But I tend to, at least now, not stitch every day. And so for me, a project like that would be a very, very big project, an ambitious one. And so I was looking for something that maybe I'll work on. You know, this is something I think I might do in the future. There's no reason you even need to do that one as a temperature chart. You could just do the books in any colors that you want, and it would just be a really lovely piece. That's kind of what I'm leaning toward on that one. But I was wanting something else that could kind of mark the year. So I found another chart the other day, which I really love. And I think this is going to be my temperature chart for this year. And this is the Rainbow Temperature Supernova by Climbing Goats Design. And as you can see, it's intended to look like a supernova or an explosion in space. The first time I saw it, I wasn't paying attention to what the title was. I actually just said, that looks like a firework. I love fireworks. And so that was one of the things, that was the first thing that attracted to me to this chart. And so I saw it, kind of decided this is it. And what I also love about this piece is there's no outline. It is just, you do minimum and maximum of the day. So it does do that a little bit differently, but that's it. There's no outlines. There's nothing that you have to do in addition to the color every day. So I felt like for me, that would probably be a really good project to start out with. And I think it's just going to look really lovely when it's done. Although I do have to say, the one thing that I always hesitate about with temperature charts is the color scheme, like going from, it makes perfect sense. Start with red for hot colors, blues, kind of purples at the other end for cool colors. Absolutely makes sense. But it doesn't really fit my color scheme, my design around the house, things like that. So one of the things that I really like about the Goth temperature chart, the bookshelf, it actually has a color guide that is really just a very limited palette. It's only just a couple of colors. And so as you can see, it's really just blacks, greens, purples, and reds, and kind of keeps it much more limited in terms of the colors that you're stitching with and the overall color of the final piece. And I really love that. I tend to be much more simple in terms of that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the colors that she picked, that designer picked for my Supernova. And I think that that'll be a really lovely final piece. So that is my plans, and so obviously with the new year coming on, that'll be something that I am going to be starting. I still need to pick out the threads, I still need to pick out the fabric, but hopefully that'll be something that you'll be seeing in the weeks coming up as well. So those are my plans. Let's see, what else? I also, like many of you, have a problem with haul. I do a lot of purchasing in terms of trying to build up my stash. Like I said, when I started, money was tight. This was a indulgence and a splurge to participate in this hobby, and so I had to be very careful about what I was choosing to purchase. And so I really only purchased what I needed, and I will admit I've gone a little bit run away on purchasing the last couple of years just because of all of the over-dyed threads, and I love supporting all of the new and up-and-coming dyers that are working on fabrics and on floss, and so it's just been fun. And I love those monthly shipments. You're like, oh, it's something of a mystery, but you get one every month. I was in a couple of thread clubs. I've recently joined a couple of fabric clubs. And so it's really about building up my stash so that I actually have some options rather than just saying I have one option or I need to go out and buy something. So I have been working on that. But I do have a little bit of that type of haul to show you. So I will show you that next. So I just recently joined the Be Stitch Me Fabric of the Month Club. This is the piece that just arrived, and it's called Honey. This is a 32 count linen. I believe it's a Belfast linen. And it's just really beautiful, kind of an over-dyed yellow orange color. I'm actually thinking this might be the piece that I'm going to use for my Supernova temperature cell, because there isn't going to be yellow in that piece in terms of the threads that I'm stitching. I think that that will be a really lovely background for that piece. So that's the current plan for that one. So that is a piece that I just recently received. I did mention that I also have just recently joined Tom and Lily's Broderie and Color Box. And so this is a small kit that you receive every month. This is the same wreath, the same company that did the wreath that I started. And the December one is 3 small separate pieces. I love these little, let me see, oh, this side, here we go. I love those little stockings, and I think that's probably the one that I would work on first. And it came with everything you need. It has the hoops, it has the fabric, and it's this beautiful petty point, and as well as all of the threads that are dyed by Tom and Lily that you can use. And so that was just a really fun kind of December box to receive. And just today, I actually received something that's not specifically stitching related, but is something that I think I will be able to easily incorporate into my stitching life. This is a Anne of Green Gables fabric line that came out a couple of years ago. Growing up, I loved Anne of Green Gables. I mean, to the point that my parents took us on a pilgrimage, and I would call it a pilgrimage, to Prince Edward Island. We saw the play, we saw the Green Gables house, we bought all kinds of souvenirs, we had Cow's ice cream, we did everything that you could possibly do that is Anne of Green Gables or Prince Edward Island related. It was one of the best vacations I've ever had. Just wonderful memories and an experience. And so even today, I love Anne of Green Gables. I love that story and the nostalgia and the feeling that that brings up with me. And so this fabric line, like I said, came out a couple of years ago. I had no idea that it came out. I missed it. It's out of print at this point. For a while, I was scouring online just to find even essentially finished pieces, something that I could find this fabric in. And I happened to come across somebody on Etsy recently who had a lot of it and done some pieces. And I will admit, I kind of purchased some things thinking I might just cut these up and use them for something else. But I really love the pieces that I got. So I think that they will, for the most part, probably stay exactly as they are. So this is kind of a book sleeve where you can slip something in it. And then I got a couple of little pouches. So this would be great for holding threads and scissors, things like that. So it is just this adorable little fabric. It's got Matthew and Marilla. It's got Anne and Diana, Green Gables. Just, I don't know what it is, but I love this fabric line. And then I got another pouch. This would probably be good for a yarn project, for example. And then I did also get one that is a cushion cover. So you can see it's kind of a larger design of it. And then it has one of the other fabrics on the back that says Kindred Spirits. This one, I think I'm going to turn into a project bag. Unfortunately, the zipper is on the bottom, but that's an easily kind of fixable thing. Just cut it. Put a zipper on the top and turn it into a project bag. So I think that may be one of the projects I work on over the next couple of days with the last of my Christmas vacation. So those, I was so excited to receive it and see those pieces and just to have a little bit of that fabric in my house because I've been looking for some of it for a while. What else? Oh, I was... one of the things that I love in addition to Christmas markets and monthly mystery deliveries, I love advent calendars. It's just that daily tiny little treat of something in your life that you know essentially what you're getting, but not quite the details of it. It's just a really fun way to celebrate the season, I think. So I did join a couple of stitching advent calendars this year and had fun opening those up. So the first one that I started was from Forbidden Fiber, and this was the Holiday Express. This is the project bag that came with it. And this kit you opened over the course of the month, and it came with everything that you need in order to stitch a pattern that was designed specifically for it. And it actually, in the end, looks very much like this. It says Believe in the Smoke and has a couple of more Christmas elements, but it's very much kind of this train motif. I really love the kind of the idea of train travel as well. So that was right up my alley. And so it comes with the pattern, and you got a piece of the pattern every day that came along with the threads that you would use to stitch it. You got finishing fabric. You got the fabric that you need to actually stitch it, which is this really beautiful kind of blue, cloudy blue. Came with just a very cute little needle minder. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, I will learn how to do this, you guys. So a little needle minder that you can work on all of the threads that you need, kind of these beautiful, bright, Christmassy threads, and these are all over-dyed cottons from Forbidden Fiber. And then some finishing fabric for whatever you would like to do with it. And then, like I said, you've got the pattern. And there were a lot of other things in there. There was a mug, there was some chapsticks, some kind of household goods. And so those are the little treats, but really it was the pattern and the threads that I found were really interesting about this one. So I don't know if I will actually stitch the pattern as designed, because it is very, like, it's overtly Christmas, which, as much as I love Christmas, I think I would like to have a train piece that isn't necessarily just Christmas. So what I would probably do is, I'm actually thinking I might stitch it as a monochromatic piece, kind of leave out the Christmas elements and just stitch this maybe in a black or a gray. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about that one. But it was just really fun to be part of that that club this year. And then I also found a cross-stitch company in Germany that also was having a advent calendar, and so I signed up for that. And this one was kind of advertised and exactly what it was, which was primarily threads and fabrics. There were a couple of other things. I did get a cute pattern and a few other things, but really it was receiving threads. So we got some specialty DMC and a number of moulinet, I think is how it's pronounced. And so this is a German thread. There's some metallic, some of them are cottons, but just some fun kind of cotton threads to use. And then we received quite a selection of various different fabrics. They're fairly small cuts, which I'm perfectly fine with because I like I said, I am a small stitcher. So really something that I'm going to be looking forward to. There is Aida, there is even weave, there is linen, all kinds of different things. And they're just a lovely array of kind of these pastel colors. I don't think that that was planned. I think that's kind of just what happened, but each of them is labeled with what they are. And so I think these are just going to be really great for a variety of smalls. And then we did receive one kit, which was kind of like a Christmas owl. It was very cute, but I gave it to somebody I know who is just learning how to cross stitch, and I'm hoping that she'll enjoy that. And then we also received this full chart from Soda Stitch, which is another kind of just a really fun Christmas winter scene. So I think that'll be a fun one to work on. So that was my haul. Those were the things that I've kind of picked up recently, really just adding to the stash and enjoying that. So it's always fun to get little things in the mail. So that was haul. Let me grab another cup of coffee. And then with that, I will turn things over to the favorite FFOs and FOs of the year. So like I said, since I'm new, I know the first videos or whip parades are often the way that you get to know a stitcher and what they tend to stitch. And if you're interested in seeing more of what they do, if you're kind of in the same style. So rather than show you everything that I've worked on recently, I think what I'll do is I'll just show you a couple of my favorite pieces that I worked on and that I fully finished. One of the things that I talked about at the beginning was I always usually stitched for other people. I never really had things in my house. I didn't decorate with cross stitch. I didn't quite know what to do with them myself. And so I often, when I kind of ran out of people to start to stitch for, or they had enough of what I had made them over the years, I kind of just would stitch things and they would go in a pile and they would just sit there and they never really, nothing ever happened with them. And I finally got to a point about this time last year where I just said, you know what, I should do something with these. I should try and see if I can learn how to finish cross stitch. What can you do with cross stitch? You know, obviously you can frame it, you can turn it into all kinds of different things. But really I just decided to experiment and see what happens and what I could learn and if I could integrate other crafts into what I was doing, any of those things. So really this last year has been me making an effort, kind of a concerted effort to learn how to fully finish pieces, think about what to do with those pieces, how can I use them in decoration, what can I do with them. And so I wanted to show you just a couple of my favorite pieces. So this is one that I finished pretty much right at very early in the new year. And this is Snowbound. There we go, maybe. There we go. Snowbound by Bent Creek. It's just a tiny, super tiny little piece. So sweet. It's got some satin stitches in the tree. And one of the things that I really like about this finish is I found this ribbon, I think it was at Joann maybe, and it's actually trees. And so it also just looks like the pieces more in a forest. The cabin is in a forest. So that's just a little piece. It's also something that my cats like to touch. So just something for a little dough bowl piece that I enjoy there. And similarly, one of the first things I did was make pillows. That's obviously something a lot of us like to do with our finishes. This is from Little House Needleworks, and this is called Baked Goods. And turned this one also into a little pillow finish for a dough bowl. The thing that I really like about this one is I just kind of folded the ribbon, kind of ruched it up a little bit, and I just thought that the fabric and the ribbon were just so perfect for this piece. And so it was a really good chance to kind of realize what you can do when you can match all of those things together. So one that I enjoyed there. Another one that I did kind of winter themed is a piece by Prairie Schooler. And I do have to give you a warning because I changed the pattern. And I know that you're not supposed to do that with Prairie Schooler. I know that that's just not the thing to do. But I will show you kind of what the original pattern was. Let's see here. Working on the focus here. All right, you guys, I'm definitely gonna have to work on focus. But this is, it's from a poem by Christina Rossetti. It's In the Bleak Midwinter. The chart actually changes the first couple of words, and I'm not quite sure why that was. But when I stitched it, I really wanted to change it back to the original words of the poem. And so I just recharted that. So you can see here where it says, in the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan, earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. So it's a poem. It's become a wonderful kind of winter and Christmas carol that people sing. So I just did kind of that little bit of recharting, and I stitched it all in one piece. And then I paired it with some William Morris fabrics. With the connection between Morris and the Rossetti family, I thought that was just a nice little thing. And then I just finished it on this little box that I found, so I can store some things in it. It'll probably go up on my winter display once I take down the Christmas pieces. So that was one that I really just enjoyed, and one of the first times I kind of did a little bit of recharting to turn something into what it is that I enjoy and what I was looking for in my pieces. The next one is a little bit oversized. This was intended to be a draft excluder. So it's one of those things that kind of goes at the bottom of a doorway, and it keeps the wind from blowing or things like that. And so this is a piece by Emma Congdon, who is Stitchrovia. I found this in a Cross Stitcher magazine, and this is called Toast of the Town. And as you can see, it's kind of just a beach theme. I recently remodeled, not really remodeled. I did some like painting, and I hung some things in my bathroom, upstairs bathroom, and it is kind of Christmas, or yes, it's Christmas themed. It's beach themed. And so I thought this was just a really great piece to have in there. And I wanted it to be hefty. I wanted it to be something that kind of really does have a weight to it. There are 5 pounds of rice in this, plus some polyfill. So I have this kind of odd little cutout in the bathroom, and it just sits on the floor there, and it just is a really fun kind of colorful piece to aspect to the room. So this is kind of one of those pieces that was just really fun. I stitched it, I think this was on 6 count Aida, and I stitched it using six strands of DMC. So really kind of a substantial piece. Obviously, if you wanted to, it is actually intended to be quite large. I think the original pattern calls for a 3 count of Aida, which I could not find. 6 was the best that I could do, but you could stitch it of any size, just depending on varying the fabric that you use, but really fun little colors there. Similarly, for another piece there in that bathroom, I did Wild Salt Air. This is a hands-on design piece. I love just has this fabric that has just tiny little shells on it. I did change the colors a little bit. I'm backwards, you guys. I changed the colors just a little bit. I also stitched the Beach Please pattern by Hands On Design that was released earlier this year. And I changed the colors just a teeny little bit so that all of the pieces would go together. And this was my favorite out of that whole one. I love going to the beach, sitting there, enjoying your time, and I just loved the fabrics and everything that went together with it. So that was a piece that I really enjoyed. Like I said, I've never really had much of a stitching community. I do have a family member who lives on the other side of the country on a boat who stitches, and we actually did a stitch along this year for the first time. I kind of purchased a pattern and bought all of the pieces and sent it to her, and we worked on it together from far apart. And so this just seemed like a really fitting piece. This is also actually another Emma Congdon piece. Not all who wander are lost, which is a Tolkien quote. I did leave the bottom off where it said J.R.R. Tolkien, but I just thought this was a really fun color. And then I had found this piece. It's actually a little house. I don't know, Joanne or Michael's or something like that. And I just thought this was fun. It hangs kind of in my mudroom near the door. And I did use the magnets and washers so I can switch it out and use something else. But this is actually the only one that is actually hung there. But I just thought it was fun. One way to do that. What else? Another hands-on design piece. She's one of my favorite designers, and so I did stitch several of her pieces this year. And it's also actually an Anne of Green Gables quote. If you're familiar with that book, there's a quote where Anne says, "I'm so glad that I live in a world where there are Octobers. And so I stitched this piece. This was in, I think it was just Cross Stitch magazine a number of years ago. And the original chart actually is just 2 long lines with some really cute applique acorns on it. But I wanted to, I don't know, I just envisioned it as a round piece, stitched it that way. And then I found this kind of, it's a pie pan, I think. And then put in kind of this extra kind of, what is this stuff? Wreath material. I'm not quite sure what it is, and just kind of whip stitched that on, and it sits on this little display thing. So just a really lovely fall piece that is one of my favorite quotes, because I just think autumn is my favorite time of year. Like, I love Christmas, but autumn is my favorite time of year. And so this is just a wonderful way to think about that. So that was a piece that I really enjoyed working on. And as you can see, I've been experimenting with what is the format of the finishes? What can you do with them? Can you turn some other object into a cross stitch piece, or as a way to highlight or kind of show off your cross stitch? And so that's one of the things that I've been experimenting with, is seeing what you can do with it. So anyway, it's been really fun. And the last piece that I wanted to show you is also a hands-on design piece. This is, I am part of the, with a little help from my friends, I think is the name of it. It's a club that is from the Silver Needle in Oklahoma, and you occasionally get pieces, and they have a variety of stitchers or designers who design for them every time. And this was a piece that Kathy Haberman designed for that club, and it's called Harvest Hexies. And the moment I saw this, I loved it. I love these colors. I love the variety of crafts that go into making this piece. Like, as I said at the beginning, I'm a multi-crafter. I love integrating different crafts together with each other. And so this one has a variety of different hobbies that I like. In addition to the cross stitch, this is English paper piecing. These are the hexie pieces. So English paper piecing, it has some embroidery, embellishments. You obviously have to do some sewing in order to put the pillow together. And so it really was just this wonderful way not only to have some cross stitch, but also, like I said, integrate a number of different other hobbies and needlework hobbies that you might have. And so if anybody else is a multi-crafter like me, if you want to try some of these, this was just a really wonderful project to do that with. I think probably a lot of people saw this and found it very intimidating, because it's a lot. It's not just stitching, it's quilting, it's sewing, it's embroidery. But I will say, I was also kind of intimidated, and I stitched it and I didn't finish it for a number of months. And it took me about, I think I timed it, it was about 3.5 hours from stitched piece to fully finished object. But nothing in here was difficult. I had never done English paper piecing. I had never made a hexie in my life. I was still learning how to do this pillow finish. The instructions were incredibly clear. It was simple. Like, if you were willing to just try some basic other hobbies, if you have basic skills, like, this is just a whip stitch. This is just a lazy daisy and a French knot. So if you either have kind of basic skills in several different crafts or interested in trying them, this is a really great piece to do it on. This one has not been released kind of to the public, because this was a club piece, but she has actually just recently, just this month, released a very similar pattern, and it's found in this magazine, American Patchwork and Quilting. And you can actually see a very similar pattern that's now available. And if you're familiar with Kathy Haberman, you know that she loves flamingos and using those in her designs. So this is essentially, it's essentially the same piece, but with flamingos instead of pumpkins. And so if you're interested, I would take a look, grab a copy of this magazine. It is the most recent issue. I think it's the February issue, but it's the one that's on newsstands now. I found my copy at Joann 2 days ago. So like I said, the instructions are incredibly clear. It is just a really wonderful way to integrate a number of hobbies, to try a new hobby and see what it looks like. So if that is something that is of interest to you, I wanted to let you know that that piece was available, and you can go take a look. So please, I hope that you will try that. And actually, I was not planning to do this in my first video. I thought this was going to be, you know, some milestone far down the road, but I am going to do a giveaway. When I was picking up a copy of this magazine, they had several, and I thought, you know what, not everybody is going to be able to grab this while it's still on the newsstands, or not everybody has access to this magazine at their store for some reason. So I picked up 2 extra copies of the magazine. And so if you are interested in winning a copy of this, put a comment below and use the keyword flamingos, obviously flamingos with an S, and I am happy to send these worldwide to anybody who is interested. So in your comment, just use the keyword flamingos. I am planning to probably record again on Saturday, January 14 of 2023. So I will draw before I film that day. So if you're watching this before kind of Eastern time, Saturday, Saturday, January 14, 2023, and you're interested, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll use the random comment picker, all of those kinds of things. Please don't say giveaway or free or anything like that. You do need to be over 18 because I'm going to have to ask for your address. But I would be happy to share copies of this and that really wonderful chart with anybody who is interested. So please feel free to leave that comment below. I had one other piece I wanted to show you. This is a piece that I finished very, very recently. As you can see, the stitching is so simple. This is just a piece of banding that is kind of a very simple piece that had the red or the green and white. I just picked a red silk fabric or silk thread and stitched this. This is from an old, one of those old books. If somebody is interested, I could pull it up, but it's an old cross-stitch book from kind of the 90s, I think. And when I was looking at that piece, I kept thinking, I was like, I really want like a Victorian scene or a Dickensian scene, something that's like that very traditional English Christmas scene. And I want it to be in this green and white, and I want it to have some red in it for the accent because that's the color I want to stitch in it. Did I have that fabric? No. Did I think that that fabric existed? Probably not. But I went to the store just in case. And they had that fabric. It was like somebody saw into my brain and was like, we're going to make that fabric for you. It was beautiful. I like grabbed it off the shelf so fast, you guys. But anyway, I just thought it was really fun. This is a piece that I got, I think, from Joanne. Again, I used the washer and magnet thing. So if I wanted to, I could use something else on this piece. It's just a very simple wood piece. I was actually thinking the Heart in Hand Tiny Town series might fit well on this. I need to do the measurements, but that might be something that would be good to put on this one for another time of year. So we'll see. Anyway, so those are just a couple of my finished objects and fully finished objects that I completed this year that I particularly enjoyed. For some reason, I really liked the stitch, or it taught me something new about finishing. And so I just wanted to show that off. Hopefully that gave you a good idea of the type of stitching that I like, the type of finisher that I am, and all of that. And of course we have the giveaway. So all kinds of good things in that section, you guys. So many good things. But yeah, that is really kind of what I wanted to share with you today. Just saying hello. Really looking forward to being part of the Flosstube community, sharing my stitching with you. Like I said, I'm not an everyday stitcher. I keep thinking that I might like to be, but I am also, I don't know, lazy, or I don't know. I sort of wait until I'm in the mood, but I'm hoping that maybe being part of the Flosstube community will encourage me to do a little more regular stitching. I really enjoy the pieces that I stitch. I love the pieces that I finish, but like so many of you, I've got more patterns and everything than I could ever get to, and maybe if I work on it a little bit more regularly, I can get a few more pieces finished, but who knows? We'll see. But anyway, that was kind of just me, that is my stitching. Those are the types of things that I enjoy working on. I hope that you enjoyed listening and seeing what I have been working on. I hope that you'll come back, like, subscribe, click the bell, do all of those things that everybody talks about, and come and let me know what you're working on. What are your plans for the new year? What are your thoughts on temperature charts? Are you a finisher? Are you somebody who just sticks your pieces in a pile and that's all you need? I would love to hear all about that and to get to know some of you in a variety of ways. So let me know what you think. And I do kind of really look forward to getting to know each of you through the comments and through this new community and environment. I don't know how many times I've said the word community today. It's a lot. Community, there, it's another one. Anyway, so how often am I going to be recording videos? My guess is probably every 2 to 3 weeks. That's what I'm aiming for. I don't think I'm going to have a set schedule, but kind of depending on how much stitching I have, what's going on, it'll probably be on weekends that I'm recording rather than on weeknights, but we'll see. So probably every 2 to 3 weeks. I do think that I will record again in 2 weeks. So on the 14th of January, I am planning to do a whip and kit parade at that point. So that'll probably be the focus of that one. Another chance to kind of see what I've been working on. And, you know, I'm sure you're dying to know if I participated in 12 by 12. We'll find out in the next video. But that is kind of what I am thinking of over the next couple of weeks. So I will see you somewhere around January 14. I can't wait to hear from you, to hear your thoughts on stitching and what we've been chatting about today, and getting to know each of you just a little bit more. So with that, I am going to wrap up. I'm going to stop rambling. And so I will just say happy weekend, happy stitching, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye.